Hello and welcome to the Premier Football Podcast. This is Joe's Corner. It's the time of the week where we take a look at a feature piece of footballing news that's been happening over the past week. And today, news has broke out of Anfield that Jurgen Klopp has signed a new 5-year contract which will expire in the summer of 2024. Whether he'll see that through or not remains to be seen. However, this is a good opportunity to look back at the career he's had at Anfield to date and predict what's going to happen over the next few years. Klopp was brought in at Liverpool in the autumn of 2015 to replace Brendan Rodgers, and Liverpool were floundering. They finished 7th the year before and they found themselves down in the mid-table. He ended up coming in, revolutionising their style of play, bringing in a much more heavy metal type of football. It was very end-to-end. It was kind of box office stuff. It got fans on the edge of their seats. And despite a few positive results, like beating Manchester City, and they ended up getting to the Champions League final, which they lost to Emery's Sevilla after being up 1-0 at half-time. They ended up finishing 8th in the Premier League and not getting any European football. Following season, Klopp finished 4th. They had some other good results. They beat Arsenal at the Emirates, and they were making a name for themselves as a team that could come up against the other big clubs and come out with a positive result. Where they were struggling was to be convincing against the mid-table and lower table teams. Anyway, they ended up finishing 4th and qualifying for the Champions League. The following season, they did so again. This time, getting to the Champions League final, where they lost to Real Madrid. Gareth Bale scored that wonder goal, and despite playing some alright football, Liverpool were never really in the game. A couple of very smart moves that Klopp made in the transfer market. First, most obvious one was to sell Felipe Coutinho to Barcelona. Brought in about £130 million, and he was able to go in and reinvest that in the areas that his squad were most lacking in, which were goalkeeper, where Simon Mignolet and Loris Karius had proved to be pretty weak, and at centre back, and of course they brought in Alisson and Virgil van Dijk, and they turned them into a team that were now able to compete. And last season they ended up going and finishing 2nd, of course, just missing out on the league title by 1 point to Manchester City, and winning the Champions League against Tottenham Hotspur. This season, Klopp has continued where he left off last season in being a little bit more pragmatic with his approach. He's ditched the heavy metal style of football, although there have been convincing wins against Everton and Bournemouth in recent weeks, 5-2 and 3-0 respectively. But most of their wins this season have been kind of 2-1, 1-0, very tight, not overly convincing, but nevertheless getting the job done. And he has turned them into, in my opinion, the most complete winning machine that we've seen in the Premier League for some time. I think even more so than Pep Guardiola's Manchester City over the last 2 years. And for me, Liverpool have by far been the best team over the last calendar year. I think they've just lost one game in the last year in the Premier League, and that was to Manchester City. And a lot of people would say that they were tough, they were hard done by losing that game. There was that clearance that John Stones made, which the ball was literally, it was like a millimetre or a centimetre or two away from being over the line completely. I think City actually were good value for the win in that game, but still, to lose just one Premier League game in a calendar year is mightily impressive. And Liverpool just look so good. Even when they've rung the changes in recent weeks, the likes of Shaqiri and Origi have come in and they've performed fantastically well. Origi in particular, he was a pretty average striker, kind of slash left winger for Lille, and even when he arrived at Liverpool, he never set the world alight. I don't think he's even ever scored over 10 goals in a league campaign in his career. But what he's proven to be is the perfect option off the bench. You could see that last season with the goals that he got in the Champions League, and this season again he's proving his worth. I think he signed a new contract in the summer. Klopp really sees him as the first choice reserve player for the front line. It'll be interesting to see now that they've moved for I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the Japanese winger from Salzburg, they're due to sign him on January 1st for a cut price fee of £7.5 million, release clause in his contract. That's just a no-brainer. And it'll be interesting to see how that affects Origi's playing time. But like, they're going to get to the latter stages of the Champions League. I'm sure of that. I actually think that they're going to win both the Champions League and the Premier League this season. And it'll just be interesting to see what other signings they make over the next 6 months. Like, what are they going to do in the summer? The difficult thing with Liverpool is that their squad, their first 11 is set so well. Like, it picks itself, arguably. Maybe the centre-back partner for Van Dijk is debatable at times, if it's Lovren, if it's Gomez, if it's Matip. It seems to be whoever is fit gets picked, and if they can perform well, then they keep their place, and fair play. It'll be interesting to see if they go and sign someone, like an Upamecano or someone like that, one of the highest rated young centre-backs to come in and partner Van Dijk. And my God, if they could get someone like that in, or another equally highly rated young centre-back, they could be that's just insane. I think that their squad, certainly their first 11 and their first choice bench players, substitutes, is incredibly strong. I just can't see them losing in the Premier League anytime soon. I thought that Salzburg would get a result against them on Tuesday night, and Salzburg started the game really well, but Liverpool just they're in that habit of winning, and that's why I say they're the most complete winning machine that we've seen in British football for a long time. I'd say going back to some of Sir Alex Ferguson's best teams. As an Arsenal fan, I'm really worried about the fact that I think they're going to go this season unbeaten. I can't see where they're going to come up short in the Premier League. I could see them losing in the FA Cup, because they probably won't take it seriously, even though they should. There's every chance for a treble. And equally, I don't see any proper competition in the Champions League. I just can't see the likes of Juventus or Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or Barcelona going and beating Liverpool. Liverpool destroyed Barcelona last season. Okay, they lost one of the legs, but over in that second leg, they absolutely killed them. And Tottenham are hardly the greatest opponents to play in a Champions League final, but they dispatched them pretty well. They were never in doubt. It was a very comfortable, routine win. And I just think that over the next few years, if Klopp goes and he wins the Premier League, and he does it in the convincing manner that it's shaping up to be now, which is getting over 100 points and going unbeaten, which is unheard of to do both of them. Even the Invincibles drew 12 games. Let's not forget about that. Amazing achievement, and one that every Arsenal fan is extremely proud of. But if Liverpool go and do that, then we did it first, yeah. In the Premier League, obviously Preston did it in the 1900s, but fucking hell, that'll be so much more impressive than what we did. And all credit to Jurgen Klopp. I think he's a phenomenal manager. I think he's the best manager in the world at the moment. And the fact that he's committed to Liverpool, you can see how much he enjoys life there. Like, you'll often see pictures coming off on the internet of him out socialising with fans and things like that, and he just gets it. It's a really unique city, and it's one that his values seem to tie in very closely with. It's a perfect match, and the fact that he's got them back to the level that they're at right now, which we haven't seen since, let's face it, since the late 1980s, is a huge credit to him. And to be honest, to the way the owners have run the club as well. They've done extremely well. They've learned from their mistakes in the early years when they bought the club off Tom Hicks and George Gillette. And yeah, the Rodgers tenure had its ups and downs, but they've really been very smart in the transfer market, especially over the past few seasons, and that's allowed them to go and buy the world-class players that they currently have. And I can only see the fact that Liverpool are officially back now as an established elite club, winning league titles and winning European Cups, that they'll have the pick of the bunch when it comes to transfers, and they have the money in the bank to go out and pay for them. Like, they could easily sign a Kylian Mbappe. Like, that's the sort of player that would want to come to the best team in the Premier League. Why wouldn't they? unless he really has his eye on a Barcelona or Real Madrid, then if you want to come and test yourself in the Premier League, go and play for the champions. Go and play for the champions of England and the champions of Europe. And that team right now is Liverpool. And I could see a Klopp building a dynasty to match that Liverpool built in the 70s and 80s. And out of the competition in the Premier League at the moment, I think that Pep Guardiola's Manchester City might be on the way out. They run their club very well. Whether or not a new manager will come in and be able to take up where Pep left off and bring them back to an elite, to challengers or Premier League champions in a short space of time, I'm not too sure. You have to look at Chelsea then as the next most competitive side. Of course, Leicester are doing very well now, but I don't think that they'll be able to sustain that over a number of years. We saw that the last time they won the league, the next season, for a number of reasons, they just flopped. Chelsea, I think, with the transfer ban being lifted and the direction they've taken under Lampard, I think that they could be back in the mix over the next season or two. But other than that, it's years before Manchester United are going to be able to be competing for the Premier League again. Arsenal haven't competed for the Premier League since 2008. Last time, realistically, I don't think they were really competing against Leicester. They just when Leicester won the league, they just flopped completely. And Spurs don't win Premier League titles. That's just a fact. So I don't see them as a realistic competitor. And honestly, I think Liverpool could just go out there and dominate English football for the next 5 years under Jurgen Klopp. He's that good. He's got them playing so well. He's instilled such a winning mentality across the squad that when they bring changes, the reserve players come in and they make arguably even a bigger difference than the first 11. So that's my thoughts for the week. Thanks very much for watching. This is the last time that you'll see me before Christmas. I might be able to do a video next week, but I'm going on holidays for a week up until the 23rd of December, so I won't be on the pod next week. Rafe will be, of course, as always, and he'll be joined by a special guest. So thanks very much for watching. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Christmas. Thank you so much for your support over these first 2 months of our channel, and don't forget to like, share the content around, and of course subscribe and get your friends to subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this, let's build this, and I'll see you all over the next couple of weeks. Thanks very much. Peace.